Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I am your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Kevin Gallagher, and we're really excited to bring you today's guest, one of the top competitors in the heavyweight scene, Jiu-Jitsu today. In the heavyweight scene of Jiu-Jitsu today, I'm so starstruck I can't even get my intro right, and we can't wait to bring him on. But before we do, brief shout out to sponsors of the show, your friends and ours, No Judges Needed, your one-stop shop for all of your grappling apparel needs. You know they got rash guards, you know they got fight shorts, you know they got gis for all the pajama players out there, and for everybody that wants to show their jiu-jitsu pride outside of the gym, they got you set up with some cool casual wear like t-shirts and hoodies. You know, we love wearing the swag. That's why we do this sport. Obviously, swag costs money, though. And for those of you that are looking to save a penny or two, we're here to help you out. Use the code JJT at checkout to knock off 20% off your purchase. Guaranteed savings, everybody. Come on. We're all poor. We have a really expensive hobby. Let's save some money. So once again, that's www.nojudgesneeded.com, code JJT for 20% off. Thank you to No Judges Needed for sticking with us. We love you guys. How you doing? All right, ad read over. Today, we have an incredibly successful guest, coach over at Atos HQ, one of the standout Atos athletes of this generation, and the number one ranked brown belt competitor heavyweight in the world today, and potentially a long-lost relative of mine. Please join us in welcoming to the show today, Mr. Adam Bradley. Adam, thank you so much for giving us your time, man. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Another day in the big city, another day in the life of
in the big city of Florida. Yeah, Tampa, Florida, the big city. I want you both to know that Kit, our boss, he's going to have to talk me off of a ledge because I'm this close to naming this podcast episode Kevin Bradley, and I don't know if I'm wrong to do that.
Oh man, yeah, we might be cousins. I gotta go on like Ancestry.com and make sure.
Yeah. Kevin is very adamant that you guys are related in some way.
No! Look at that jawline. Yeah, Look at that hair pattern that I'm rushing towards.
I don't know how to break this to you lightly, Kev, but that genetic code does not look anywhere near the same.
I don't know, man. No.
Your likeness ends in last name.
Hey, look, we've met in person. I actually got the chance to talk to Mr. Bradley here. Never thought I'd get to say Mr. Bradley on a podcast, but I got to meet him in Des Moines, Iowa during the Jiu-Jitsu Woodstock Festival. I'm just going to mute your mic because there's a little bit of an echo. But I got to meet him, and standing next to him, we're about the same size, you know, similar capped shoulders, huge pecs, and like ripped abs. Like we're, you know, and also we both love fantasy novels. So really, you know, no matter what the DNA results say, we're cousins.
Well, whatever helps you sleep at night, Kev. You know.
Oh, that's the only way I can sleep at night.
The only way you go to sleep at night, exactly.
So, Adam, what has been your recent jiu-jitsu time? How have you been on the mats lately?
Honestly, like this last couple of weeks since the new year started, been kind of taking some time off to like look at my life and other aspects of my life, and I've been trying to make a new schedule because now I'm actually starting to train for MMA. And so yeah, I just started this week training kickboxing and MMA at the arena while I'm training jiu-jitsu at Atos, teaching at Atos. So yeah, I took a couple weeks off just to kind of like figure out my life, get things together, and then make this new schedule, meet my new coaches. And this week I just started, so I'm very excited for that.
Hey, everybody. Very brief technical issue with echo, but we're back talking with Adam. MMA, what inspired that transition, if you don't mind me asking?
I've always wanted to do MMA. The reason I started jiu-jitsu was because I wanted to fight MMA, and you know, that was a decade ago. So then what happened was, you know, I started no-gi training, was expecting just to get right into MMA right off the bat, but then I just fell in love with jiu-jitsu and fell in love with the gi and decided I want to specialize in that and see how far I could go in that sport alone. And now, you know, 10 years later, I'm starting to find myself like ready to, like, you know, diversify my training, start something new and get that ball rolling, you know.
Well, I think just to compare your journey to something I'm more familiar with in terms, like, because I've never been a professional athlete, but I've played video games before. And I've played a video game where, you can do side quests until you get to the final boss. And you've essentially just grinded to level 100, and now the final boss might be a little too easy for you. And, not everyone gets their blue belt in terms of jiu-jitsu training before jumping into the octagon. You've not only gotten your brown belt, but you're one of the highest ranked competitors at your weight class, at your belt rank in the world. Was there an inciting incident that made you want to readjust to MMA, or?
No, I just feel like ready for a little bit of a change, after years, like 6, 7 years of the not like monotony. It's not like it's boring to this, training camp competition like IBJF. Like we all know like the usual schedule in a normal year. I guess 2020 kind of like made me want to switch up and start to diversify my training more. And yeah, it just seems like I'm 25 now, so it seems like the right time to start learning a new skill, being a wipeout again in a new sport, striking. And by the time and then I'll still be young enough to have a great career in MMA by the time I'm ready and feel confident enough to get into the cage.
What are some of your coaches at Atos thoughts on that? Are they concerned about it taking away from jiu-jitsu? Are they supportive of the fact that you want to go out and go for other things? Obviously, if you're training, you're striking at another facility, they probably don't have a very established MMA program at Atos. I don't know that they have much MMA going around there, but are they cool with that? Are they saying, hey, that's good, go on and do that, you can still do jiu-jitsu, we can just focus it towards an MMA centric thought process?
Yeah, 100%. Professor Galvao has been very supportive of that decision. I've let him know my plans. As soon as they come into mind, I communicate that with him, and he's been very supportive. There's a few other guys at Atos who are interested in MMA, so we might start getting like an MMA training at Atos. But yeah, we are primarily jiu-jitsu. And so for now, I'm going to seek out world-class strikers, instead of trying to learn from other jiu-jitsu guys who learn striking. I'd rather go, that's just like how I moved to Atos to get world-class jiu-jitsu. I want to go to where there's world-class striking as well. Because I want to learn from the best, of course,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that if Andre Galvao put the freaking put a news flash out, he was looking for a striking coach, that there would be a large number of world class strikers that would die for an opportunity to coach at Atos. But I mean, whatever. He's focused on jiu-jitsu. You guys, unquestionably, I always talk about this. It's you guys fight sports, and the Danaher Death Squad checkmate people kind of flutter in there a little bit when you talk about like premier competitive schools in the world of jiu-jitsu right now. And Atos is clearly on top of the list, and Fight Force is right there to it. But I think that Atos maybe edges them out just slightly. You guys have a bunch of killers. It's an amazing program. So talking about your MMA transition and moving on to MMA, it's curious that you waited. I mean, I only say that because it's doesn't happen a lot. And normally guys, when they start with MMA, they when they come into doing jiu-jitsu with the mindset of going into MMA, it's they're going through the motions of their jiu-jitsu in the idea of incorporating as much as they possibly can and learn as much as they possibly can, but it's still geared towards going to an MMA career. And you are a brown belt. Obviously, you've had quite a bit of success in the jiu-jitsu realm that led you to kept you in the jiu-jitsu game and kept you away from MMA. What are some of the reasons why you did that? Why did you stick with jiu-jitsu instead of jumping right into MMA?
Yeah, so I really wanted to specialize. I just love jiu-jitsu so much. I plan on, even this year, like as soon as a gi major tournament gets announced, like Pans of Worlds, I'll put the gi on and I'll train for it, because I really do enjoy it and I love it. Until then, my matches are primarily no gi for last year and this year, so it just kind of like tailors itself towards MMA as well. And my game, I think, is good for MMA because I don't have to train too differently. I love the wrestle. I like to stay on top, but I also practice. I'm a guard player as well. I can do everything. I'm very well rounded, so I feel confident that my game will transfer. And I just really have to focus on my striking and then the clinch work to get into my ground game. And that's basically what I'm working on now. But yeah, it's not going to like take away from my jiu-jitsu training. I'm still in Atos a few days a week, whether I'm teaching or training. And basically, yeah, as soon as like if you want me to put a gi on and train, I'll do it. I have no problem. Like I'm very confident that I can do all these things and still have great success.
I think it'd be cool to talk about your experience and your seeming love and appreciation of the gi, considering you entered jiu-jitsu primarily to get into MMA. When you started jiu-jitsu, did you avoid the gi at all, or were you fine training in it? Because I've noticed a lot of MMA fighters have mixed feelings about the gi.
Honestly, when I first started training, I just couldn't afford a gi, and we did gi and no gi. But I was training in a sweatshirt when it came to gi class, because like it took me a year to afford a $80 gi when I first started training, but then since then, I've done mostly no gi, but I love the gi as well. You see me at every gi major tournament. I have a lot of fun. It's just really creative. There's a lot more stop and go, a lot more thinking in the process of like how to pass or deal with like the lapel guards and 50-50. And it's just a lot of fun to me. It's not like I chose for any particular reason to do more no gi or whatever. I just kind of whatever. I have like FOMO when it comes to competing. If there's a gi tournament, I want to do it. I don't want some other guy to win it. I want to win it. Same thing with no gi. Any rule set.
Now I'm just looking. I think there's a potential here for a super fight with you and Supernatural Survival Gear Kent Peters doing sweatshirt jiu-jitsu, like submission only, no time limit.
No problem.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, and I think that's a topic of discussion that I always go through a lot when we have MMA fighters and we have guys that come to the gym that really just want to be MMA fighters that are rising their ranks through the amateurs and things like that. And like I always tell people that, in order for you to truly be good at MMA, it's very important that you not only understand what MMA incorporates. It's a combination of all skill sets. You got to understand boxing, you got to understand jiu-jitsu, you got to understand wrestling, you got to understand kickboxing, Muay Thai, and things like that, right? But you should never go into MMA with the mindset of I'm going to train just what works for MMA, and that's the only thing I care about. You need to focus on each individual aspect of what makes MMA individually. Build your skill set in those areas, and then you start to realize what you can shave off, what's going to work for MMA, what's not going to work for MMA. Because I guarantee you that even some obscure gi lapel choke opportunities you think about no gi, right, that aren't necessarily anywhere relevant for an MMA match, will have some way of popping into your mind when you're in an MMA match. Maybe not a gi choke. That might be a wrong experience, but think about maybe a wrong example. Think about maybe like a weird 50-50 position or an awkward sweep that would never really work. You would think about it as an MMA position, but there's going to be a time when that may be viable for you in MMA, and it's going to it'll evolve for you in that regard. So, like, you did a good job by getting that brown belt in MMA. Your jiu-jitsu is going to be top notch. It's going to be something you're going to hold on to as your foundations.
Yeah, I find like training gi and no gi, to compare those two, like my passing in the gi or passing no gi, is like I feel like my gi training helps my no gi passing because I can do gi style passing to these no gi guys. I can do toreandos and like the timing of when you start to pass one way, they contract their knees to their chest and they become like a tight little ball. And usually in the gi, you can grab the pants, spin them around. I do that no gi too now because I've practiced that movement so many times. I can do it with an ankle grip or a gi grip. It doesn't matter. And I feel like you just build these little skills that's easier to build in the gi or sometimes easier to build no gi, but then they transfer between the two.
You start. Yeah, of course. You start to like anytime you are trying to solve problems under duress using jiu-jitsu, your jiu-jitsu game is getting better. And I use that analogy a lot. Like when I have no gi matches, like I will put a gi on to train for a no gi match because I'm doing jiu-jitsu. I'm learning, I'm thinking, I'm making my brain process the results. And just like you said, if I got a gi match, like I'm going to train a no gi. Now I will understandably focus my energy in one direction depending on what I have to do that week. But like training a gi gets your no-gi game better, and training a no-gi gets your gi game better. It's vice versa. What do you think about when people bring up the topic of training in the gi makes you more technical because you have the friction, your explosive energy isn't involved as much. You have to, grips are involved. You have to really pay attention and use that monotonous kind of flow.
I feel Like, I guess I feel like can you rephrase that? Can you phrase that question again?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm saying. I apologize. I
No, you're
talk
good.
crazy sometimes. The question is how do you feel when what are your thoughts on training in the gi to make you a more technical grappler instead of an
Oh, okay.
explosive grappler? Right?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
You're good, man.
I feel like they're both technical, but I feel like no gi, you have to start to think faster because
Right.
once you start a move, especially if it's sweaty, once you start something, it becomes like a scramble and it's like two squirrels fighting, over a nut. And it's just, you have to really, you don't have as much time to like stop and think or hold a position. In the gi, I can staple you down by your collar and like hold you for a second or keep your sleeve off, keep your elbow off the mat and like just stall for a second to like, okay, look around, see where the knee cut is, whatever. No gi, you have to get an underhook, head scoop, go, and then fight from there. So I think they're both technical. One's just a lot faster pace. Just like wrestling, people say like, oh, wrestling's not technical. It's very technical, but you have to work really fast. Yeah, think fast.
That leads me to the next question. Are you a wrestling? You have a wrestling background? Is that where you started from? Were you a wrestler before you did jiu-jitsu?
No, I never wrestled. I wish I had wrestling in my school. It was too small for wrestling. But we had jiu-jitsu club for a couple of years, and that's how I got started. So,
really?
So I started wrestling after I graduated high school. I was training at an MMA gym, and I was mostly no-gi, and some wrestlers from a college up north would come and train on our mats, and I would just get in there with them and just had to learn. So then I was like scared of wrestling before then, and then I spent like a solid year just wrestling, and now I really enjoy it.
Well, you guys wrestle at Atos, that's for sure. There aren't too many guard pulls at Atos. I mean, there are, but like you guys, I've been to a few of your practices, and you guys start standing the entire time, and you fight for those positions, you fight for those takedowns, and like it's almost a dying art sometimes in jiu-jitsu. Like it's starting to come back. The guard pullers. Like even the guard pullers are learning to wrestle now because they realize eventually you're going to have to wrestle. There's going to be a time in your match when you're down by a point or you can't pull guard because they're going to deduct a point for you that you're going to have to fight for that wrestling position. We've been teaching wrestling right now in my gym for this last month, and you need it. You have to have it. You got to have wrestling. That's all there is to it.
It's nice because you can have there's matches where I've pulled guard over and over, played 50-50 the whole round, and I'm down by 2 and we get out 50-50 and they think I'm going to pull again. It's nice to have a blast double in your back pocket just to surprise them with, definitely pulled that out to win some matches last minute. They're like, oh, they're going to pull guard. Boom, just take them right down.
Which kind of leads me back to the point about, training jiu-jitsu and having that advanced, jiu-jitsu competition, jiu-jitsu mindset is that, all of those things, even though they're not as viable to what you would consider to be MMA techniques, like it's cool to know you have a single leg or a freaking roll through fucking deep half guard sweep or something like that. That might not be your go-to, but if you need a sweep, you need something, and there's an opportunity where it develops, so you can feel safe with it. At least you understand that position, you learn how to work through it, man. So.
100%. I feel like with MMA, if you're on bottom, you're in a lot of danger. So to have as many transitions and escape routes as possible to get out of danger and then to come up, the more jiu-jitsu you have, the more wrestling you have, the safer you're going to be on bottom because you have these areas to escape to and come up and counter.
I would love to know a little bit more. We've seen a lot of big-time jiu-jitsu athletes recently make the jump into MMA. Buchecha just announced he's going to be competing under one. Gary Tonin has been in there for a few years now, I think, and we've started to notice a little bit. I think even Andre has teased the idea of coming back before. I don't know if you have any more insight onto that. But do you have any kind of idea as to promotion, what kind of scale you're looking at, or do you have a promotion in mind, or how far along in the process that way are you?
Yeah, I'm as it comes to promotion, I'm not totally sure yet. I know it's going to be hard for me to find amateur fights, so that's the thing. I might have to go straight to pro.
Yeah, you screwed up by being the number 1 ranked brown belt in the world, man.
I'm not sure how that. I know in Florida you have to have, I think it's 6 amateur fights before you can go pro. But because you've probably had a paid purse from a jiu-jitsu match that may be considered pro. I don't know. I don't think so. I really don't know. I'm just talking on my ass. But I don't see why you wouldn't be able to have some amateur fights.
Kev is just trying to get you to come out to Florida and like hang out with him. All right, he wants to hang out with him.
I mean, I'm down. I'm down to do amateur fights. If I can get one, I'll do it. You know, the experience is good.
Have you heard any feedback along those lines? Are they going to allow you to amateur? Are they going to cut you back on that? You don't know yet.
I don't know yet. Like I just met my MMA coaches the other day, and they don't know if they're going to be able to get me amateur fights, but we'll try. You know,
it's weird how it works like that.
Yeah, we'll see.
The problem is, and that's where you're gonna have this problem regardless. You're just because you have the jiu-jitsu accolades, you're this Atos guy, #1 brown belt in the world. You know, there's no one's gonna want to fight you, especially at an amateur fight. It's not a question of do you need to fight. It's a question of like who's gonna be dumb enough to come fight Adam Bradley, you know, a brown belt world champion in an amateur match.
Yeah, they'll likely try to find me some like really accomplished wrestler or some Muay Thai world champ or something like that. You know, that's probably what be my first fight. Someone tough for sure.
Yeah, take as many meatballs as you can, kid. Get your fucking
get that bread, man.
Get your legs, right?
I know. I know. Like King of the Cage has a pretty easy to enter amateur division. So if you ever want to come up north, like knock some cans around before they put you in the prime time.
Cage.
Yeah, I'm open to any opportunities.
So let's talk a little bit about some more grappling stuff because I'm just curious about you and particularly about Atos in general. Like, again, I know you've been at Atos for a long time, and I'm sure that you have been there long enough. Did you start white belt to brown belt? You did a little bit training somewhere else, but did you start at Atos as a white belt? Just curious.
No, I'm from New Hampshire originally. So.
Oh, really?
Yep. So when I started jiu-jitsu, it was like at a little high school club on cheerleading mats in the cafeteria 3 days a week. You know, blue belt was teaching us, you know. So yeah, I moved to Atos 5.5 years ago or so.
Okay, so you were 5 years in. Were you purple belt by that time? Or you blue belt at that time?
I was a 4-stripe blue belt, and after my first week at Atos, I took all my stripes off and thought I was a white belt.
Why'd you move to San Diego?
Happen.
Did you come out here? Did you come to San Diego particularly to train, or was it some kind of like job move or family move or something?
No, I moved out here just for Atos. Like I was training 8 hours a day back home, but like the level just wasn't the same. I was top dog every gym I went to, and I would win like the small local tournaments like Nagas and stuff. But IBJJF, I would always get second at best, like double silver every time. Yeah. I go to Worlds or Pans, lose first match every time. So I knew I had to like make a change in my training if I wanted to accomplish my goals.
Now, you were already, if you don't mind me asking, you were already in the Northeast, and the Northeast has a few really standout gyms. You know, New York, they got Henzo's, they got the Blue Basement. You know, there's this Boston has some pretty stacked gyms. What made you want to travel across the country for Atos specifically?
First thing is like Atos always kind of like spoke to me. Like I always watched, you know, at the time it was, you know, I was always watching Galvao, and he, you know, was one of my heroes, and I always learned really well from his videos. I liked his style, so that really, you know, stuck with me. And then everyone else who was there at the time, you know, you had like JT and Liera, multiple guys that I really looked up to, and so I was like, I want to train with these guys. They're all killers, they're all champions. A lot of good Americans too that I can learn from, along with Galvao and the Brazilian crew as well. And secondly, if I'm gonna move somewhere and like be really broke and struggle in an expensive city, I want to live where it's nice and warm. I'm not gonna like move to New York and like be cold and pissed off all the time like I am in New Hampshire and be broke. Right. So if I want to move and struggle, it's gonna be at least sunny outside with palm trees.
Oh man, San Diego is beautiful. I got to visit one of your teammates. We talked about it off air a little bit. Anthony. I can never say his damn last name. Gorillo, I think it's his last name. We call him Gorilla, because he got our black belt together. I bring his name up all the time. But when I go out there, I'd stay with him. And man, every time I go, I'm like, dude, I don't want to leave. San Diego is such an amazing city. It's so cool. The weather is perfect. The people are awesome. It's just a beautiful, beautiful city full of beautiful fucking people. And then you get to train at Atos all day long. Like it's like paradise for a jiu-jitsu practitioner. So tell me a little bit about again, we've established you moved to Atos. You wanted to get better at jiu-jitsu, and obviously your jiu-jitsu got better. You went from placing in IBJJF events to winning them, outlandishly, and then in the history of Atos, you are probably the 5th number 1 ranked brown belt in the world for as long back as I can think about. Every time I look at it, you guys have another number 1 ranked purple belt, brown belt, something or other in your ranking system. You guys just seem to turn them out. Like, tell us about what makes Atos so great. Like, why are you able to continue to crank out those champions, and what about the gym culture, Andre Galvao, everything that makes that place such a special place?
It's a good question. It's a crazy vibe. You have to go there and experience it to really, I can try to describe it, but honestly,
I've been there before and I've trained with you guys, so I get it. You know what I'm talking about? I'm just curious about your takes on it. I'm sorry to interrupt you again.
No, it's fine. The atmosphere is just very, we have our motto, together we are stronger, and that's how we train. We all help each other. Everyone's very uplifting. We push each other, and we're all there for similar goals. We've all moved and uprooted our lives from wherever we came from to come here, train together, and accomplish similar goals. And with that, camaraderie and that similar vision we all share, we just put a lot of time and effort into each other as much as we do for ourselves. And yeah, we train hard, and we push ourselves hard. And if you're not training hard, you're just kind of wasting up people's time. And you're wasting your own time. So you go there, you show up, and you put effort in, whether it's focused on your drilling or you're putting in hard rounds and giving max effort. And Professor Galvao has made this environment where it's friendly, fun, but we learn and we train hard and we give our best. And as long as you give your best, that's all I ask for. And he's a very good coach. He's a great coach, and we go over lots of good technique. He comes over and he works with you, like anyone. Some Joe Schmo can go on the mat and ask him a question. He'll sit there and give you a little mini private. No one's too good for the help of anyone else. And with that, wanting us all to rise up together, that's what can expedite our learning and make us level up faster. Because I can train with black belt world champions and they treat me with the respect that they would treat themselves or other black belts, and so we all just get better together.
It's weird. I've never had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Galvao, but friendly and upbeat are 2 words I would not immediately think of when I think of him. Terrifying and huge trap muscles are the things that come to mind.
He's a nice
guy.
For
sure.
He's awesome. He's so cool.
Have you gotten many chances over the years to roll with him personally? Do you and him go sparring? And if so, what is that like? Does it get any easier?
We train a lot, and sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not. He makes me more tired than anyone else I've ever trained with. He is so good at putting pressure while being light on his feet. He makes you carry his weight, and his feet are light, and he's switching sides, switching angles, and he's not one of those guys who will, unless he's training for his own matches, then he gets pretty serious and scary and he won't give you a chance. But if he's just helping me train, he won't get the side mount and then crush my face and hold me for 6 minutes in that side mount. He'll get to a part where he's about to pass and then make me work to get out. And so he's tiring me out. He won't let me chill. Because it's hard rounds or when it's a lot of back and forth. That's a harder round than just getting passed right after that and then spending 6 minutes bottom side mount. So he'll pass, let me get out, try to pass again, and it's so tiring. And over the years, I've gotten better. Now we have more competitive rounds for sure, but it's never easy. It's never easy.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up about guys that just tend to suck the life out of you, that keep their pressure on, and they get stronger as you get weaker, and they capitalize on those opportunities. And what I've noticed about some of the best guys in the world that I've ever trained with is there's something about them that they have this innate ability to understand when they've pushed you to that point of breaking, and then they break you and capitalize on that. And it's something that You can't quantify into technique.
Hey, everybody. Sorry again. Technical difficulties. Adam's Wi-Fi is like the white belt of Wi-Fi's. So he is working very hard to making this work. We really appreciate him and all the effort he's putting in. So, Kev, you were saying about
don't worry about it. Believe me.
sucking the life out of
By far not the worst we've ever had. Don't worry
Oh,
about
Jesus,
it.
yeah.
Right.
Like Nicky Rod was coming into us from a potato when we had him on.
You like when you learn to deal with these things, you just deal with the fact that anything that can happen will usually happen in the course of a
Yeah, my router's a roll of Scotch tape on a candle. So
the question I was asking was that what I've noticed about some of the better guys in the world is that they figure out a way to understand when they break you. Like I roll with my head instructor, Matt Arroyo, all the time, and he is a stud, a USC fighter, been training jiu-jitsu for a long, long time. He's ADCC qualifier, really freaking strong jiu-jitsu player. And when I roll with him, there's always that moment in every roll where I realize that I broke. He capitalized on that and won the role we were in or run the match we were in. And like the thing about that is it's not something that you can teach. It's not something that like you could bring somebody in and make them understand how to recognize when there's blood in the water and capitalize on it. It's just something you just learn. You just feel like a feeling for it. You know, and what I've noticed, tell me a little bit about how you feel about that. Tell me about how that's like with Galvao, if that's representative of what you think about Galvao rolling with Galvao.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely pushes the pace, like, especially if I have a match, like he's gonna give it to me and he's gonna like try to play even the style of the opponent. Like he's gonna match that style too and help me out that way. Yeah, it just depends. You know, it depends on where we are in the training camp too. Like midway through the training camp, yeah, he's not giving me any chances, and I have to work for every little, advantage point I can get. But then he has a good way of working with his athletes of like boosting them up towards the end and like letting us get our game, and yeah, letting me shoot my attacks off so he can also like, critique them and, add to my game more. Or if he is, working me that day, if I'm not having a good day and he's just beating the crap out of me, then he helps me with my defense or my counters and my positional awareness so that I, can stay in a safe place. So like it's a mix though. Like I have so many other training partners too, and they're all training, hard. So like it's not just Galvao, but I have like Kainan and Gustavo, Jonatas, all the, like Don Bell, all these other really good black belts that are all training really hard, not giving me any chances either. So like I get a variety of training of people who are trying to absolutely just kill me and people who are just having fun and everything in between.
Yeah. I've been, like I said, I've been Atos to train before, and I've watched some of your training sessions, and it's just phenomenal. It's what Kevin talked a lot about when we talked about what it's like training at Atos, is he compares it to like a very high level Division I wrestling program. There's such organization and such atmosphere. Atos is obviously the head of the spear, and running the coaches or running the program, running the classes. And you guys start with drilling, then you do a little technique, then whatever he feels like is needed for that day, you guys morph into those situations. And it's really cool to see that, because you don't see that a lot. Like, you're very blessed to have that level of structure in your gym. So it pushes you guys to the next level. What do you feel like? How do you feel about who's some of your toughest roles? Some of the toughest guys in the room you roll with? Call everybody out. Why not?
20-way tie.
Tell me Josh Hanger's a punk. No, I love him. He's my dog. I've talked to him a few different times. He's too big time to come on this show, but we'll get him on eventually.
I mean, everyone's tough, because even the blue belts,
Right.
I know what it's like. You're a blue belt, you show up, you want to prove yourself, and you're just going to come at everyone fearlessly and relentlessly. So like, even if you want to get a rest round with someone you're better than or bigger than, like, you're going to have to fight like hell for a bit first to like get them into that position, and then you can chill. But until you control them, it's just like a rabid animal coming at you. Right. My toughest rounds, like, man, depends anyone who's there. Like, you got Ronaldo, who's just like a marathon runner of jiu-jitsu. He can just like go 100%. Like, he can keep that pace for an hour easy. I've seen him do it for an hour. And
he's a big guy too, which is even crazier. Normally the Lular ones can do that, but when you got a guy that lets you fight with heavyweight, he fight your weight, right? You to be able to do that. He was the other brown belt world champion, brown belt #1 ranked, and then he had the other one before that. But that was just anyway. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, I mean, depends. Like you got Gustavo, who's then totally other end of the spectrum. Gustavo Batista, he's not like super explosive and athletic, but he is just a tractor in first gear, and you know what he's doing. But he's just going to try to grind through you and make you carry all the weight. And that's so tiring as well. So you got guys who are going to make you sprint and guys who are just going to try to smush you. And yeah, I mean, name all the top black and brown belts there. Those are all my toughest roles, anywhere from Galvao to Andy Murasaki. And they all have such different games that one round I'm scrambling like crazy with Ronaldo, and then the next round I'm defending Burn Bolos and Kiss of the Dragon with Andy. Then the next round I'm trying to let Galvao bless double me into the wall. So it's just you got to be ready for everything, and all of them are super tough. And even some of the lesser known guys, we have a lot of guys who haven't blown up on the scene yet, but are so good, and they're going to surprise people. We've got a lot of secret hidden weapons there.
Yeah, it's cool. It's interesting when you talk about it. That's another thing I think about a lot when I think about just the beauty of what jiu-jitsu is and how it comes to the table. Because you talked a lot about a bunch of different guys, and all of them have, different skill sets and different techniques and different individual approaches to the art of jiu-jitsu. And the even cooler part is you all have the same coach. Andre Galvao obviously isn't going to do a whole lot of Barambalos and a lot of freaking Kiss of the Dragon. It's like he could do them, obviously, but he maybe do it to me. You know what I'm talking about? But like that's not going to be his go-to in a competition. But you have guys that develop that aspect of the game, and it's one of the beautiful things about jiu-jitsu is that even though you have this amazing instructor that's pointing you guys in the right direction, making you guys work hard, building the culture, because that's so much of what the head instructor does. And then obviously he has some of his go-to things that you guys work on, his structures and philosophies that you work on. But everybody kind of does their own thing, and you have different looks, and it just makes your jiu-jitsu that much better, man. It's pretty cool to see shit like that, man. So.
For sure. That's why I feel like when I'm training or competing, like I'm just ready for anyone. Like no one scares me because I get a look of I get a taste of everything every day. So it's that's why I feel very well rounded, and I can do whatever rule set, gi or no gi, and feel just fine. Like I don't feel like I'm not prepared ever.
I know he hasn't been a part of Atos in a while, ever since he left, but since Keenan was there for so long, did you get good at defending the worm guard at all, or did you have much interaction with him while he was there?
I'll be honest, no. Yeah, even like people, I remember when I fought who's #1 against Dante Cano, he put me in reverse Della Worm super fast, and the commentators were like, well, I was training with Keenan, you should be better at defending this. I'm like, I barely got to train with Keenan. No. You didn't train too much by the time I got there. He was focused on other things, then he left. So so
he's been gone for a little while.
I'm the lapel guy now.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm the lapel player and everyone hates me.
You got a promotion. Hell yeah.
That is annoying as lapel guards, man. I tell you, it's one of those things that's like, even from a closed guard position where you're in someone's lapel guard, like even if they're not moving you a lot, because I got a solid base, it's hard to move me around. You know what I'm talking about? And I'm cool with that. I'm an old black belt. I can make my base strong and be like, yeah, that's cool. It's cute. Like you're not going to sweep me from here. But what it does is it keeps me from being able to do anything I want to do. Like when my arm is pinned back up here and it's wrapped around my leg, like I might not be getting swept, but I can't really do anything to address this, which leads for me to overcommit, make a mistake, and then you capitalize on it.
Yeah, you can't pass until you address it. So
right, exactly.
Yeah,
that's dope, man.
I very quick. There's one other jiu-jitsu thing I wanted to talk about before you obviously got to go back to being a fucking killer on the mats. But I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the auxiliary needs of a professional jiu-jitsu athlete, and that's like strength and conditioning. We were talking a little bit. One of the first things we talked about was Electrum Sports, which is one of your sponsors. You've gone on to start working with the company in a much closer capacity. You've credited them with a lot of your strength gains as a professional athlete. What goes into building a higher capacity vessel for a jiu-jitsu athlete as opposed to other sports?
So yeah, Electrum has specialized in combat sports, and they've worked with athletes in every sport, but our niche is combat and specifically jiu-jitsu right now. We work with all of the best guys and from Atos and other teams as well. And basically it's very science-based. You get a lot of these, you get a lot of clowns, honestly, in the strength training world who just don't really have the certifications. They don't know what they're doing, but they throw cool stuff at you and it looks cool. And they, people believe in it, they'll eat that stuff right up. But what goes into our training, we very much focus on progressive overload and slowly but surely adding, progress, making progress with every day. And we're not going to make it, and we try to program things that are going to help with your jiu-jitsu. So we do a lot of isometric strength, and we do a lot of grip training, but we don't get too specific where we have to be a lot of people get way too specific with their training, and they're doing barbells on their feet, inverting crazy stuff. It's not not good stuff. We still do a lot of more powerlifting style, I would say, as in return, to be compared with CrossFit or anything like that. We don't really do that. We stick more with the classic powerlifting, our deadlifts, our squats, all these things. I don't know if I'm answering your question the right way, but
you're giving us a big outlook on the organization, and that's basically where I was coming to. So keep going.
Okay. Yeah. So you got the head coaches, both Alex Bryce and Alex Sterner. Alex Sterner's been training MMA, combat sports, jiu-jitsu for well over 10 years now. So he knows what goes into it. He's competed a lot under Atos as well. And Alex Bryce, he's a genius. You ask that dude anything. You can ask who won the World Series in 1989. He's like a computer. Very, very smart, very intelligent. And they know the science, what goes into, helping you progress, whether it's your isometric strength, your rate of force development. So basically anything you need as a combat sports athlete when recovery as well, training strength and strength training can, help you heal a lot faster, plus make you less prone to injuries because we're building the muscles around those joints, strengthening the ligaments, putting your bones and ligaments under pressure that make them harder to injure, which keeps you on the mat longer, more consistently, which gets you better at jiu-jitsu faster. And that's basically our whole thing there. The whole paradigm is to keep you on the mat, keep you progressing, and we don't let your strength training take you away from jiu-jitsu. We're not going to make you so wrecked from strength training that you go into jiu-jitsu not being able to train very well. You know what I mean? So it's all about supporting the athlete and keeping them healthy while we progressively help them, gain strength, flexibility, mobility, and conditioning.
Yeah, so much of modern strength training has been geared along that. The biggest old school comes from boxing, and the old school idea is you go to the gym, you break yourself down as hard as you possibly can, and then you recover and get stronger. And there are some benefits to that, I guess, in an awkward world if you're not doing anything else besides lifting weights, right? But when you're actually trying to be a world-class athlete and you're beating yourself up every day in the gym and in the jiu-jitsu room or in the MMA room for you eventually soon enough, you can't do that your body just can't handle that. And there's way more intelligent ways to get the same amount of gains from doing things more intelligently that aren't going to break your body down. It's a whole new mindset. I've changed the way I train. I've got a personal trainer that works with me. I have a NASM degree certification too, but that's something that needs to change because people just get hurt too much. You just get hurt. You can't handle that way.
That's actually one question I wanted to posit to you is that there, many of the big jiu-jitsu athletes that have been competing for years now are no stranger to the weight room. Do you think that there's any common mistakes that you notice with that caliber of athlete in the way that people have traditionally approached strength training?
Good question. From what I see, it's mostly just you get these guys who either just teach themselves how to lift or they don't have a very well qualified strength coach, and you see them just lifting, always trying to one up their last lift, regardless if they trained hard or not, how their body's feeling. You see them deadlifting 445 with a rounded back and hurting themselves eventually. We're very much not about that. Like there's days where I just train so hard that morning and I feel like I'm just dragging my feet in there, and I'll go and lift 60% of what I know I can. I think that being able to tailor your workouts depending on how you feel that day, and not always just working harder until you just can't anymore. I think that's a big difference between how strength training used to be, how conditioning used to be, and where it's heading. Because I still know so many like MMA fighters who are just like, their coaches are just like 3 miles of this, 1,000,000 burpees, 100 push-ups, no matter what. If you don't do this, you're lazy.
And all other stuff like that, right?
Yeah, they just go harder, not smarter, you know.
Right.
And it's kind of counterintuitive after a bit, you know, to train that hard constantly. You know, you got to be able to take the gas pedal off and make sure you feel your best. And when you're training the sport that you're doing professionally, like I'm not a weightlifter professionally, you know, that's not my thing. There was like a solid year where I was always just obsessed with PRs and putting 345 on my back and see how many times I can do it. And that was fun. It's super fun. And like, I'm motivated to start lifting real heavy again because, yeah, I just have a good time doing it. But I'm not a power lifter, so I have to keep that in mind. I'm lifting to help my jiu-jitsu. And if like I hurt myself lifting and I can't train jiu-jitsu, I messed up.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up a lot about the self-taught stuff. It's just, you know, you go to professional. You don't go to a mechanic to fix your toilet. You know what I mean? It's just like when you were training jiu-jitsu at an inferior spot and you wanted to go to where the best jiu-jitsu is, you go to where the best jiu-jitsu is. And the reason why they're the best is because they're tried and true. They think about things in a scientific method, and not just some dude that lifts at the gym that, you know, has significant gains because of his body or whatever type of, you know, whatever his system seems to work for. So he tells you how that works for you. You need someone that understands your body, your development, what your goals are, and put you in the right path, man.
Yeah, 100%. I used to make up my own workouts all the time when I was younger. I had to delete videos off. I had to go back like 10 years ago and delete videos off my Facebook of me doing like dumbbell overhead press while standing on a yoga ball. I'm like, yeah, this is balance. And I'm training jiu-jitsu. I'm training strength and balance all at the same time. And I look back and I'm like, no, get this off the internet now.
Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. Like put a disclaimer underneath it. This is horrible.
When something's when something you're so ashamed of, you're just worried that it'll inspire others.
Yeah. No, at the time I was like, this is it. This is the stuff.
Hell
I know what I'm
yeah.
doing.
So I got one. Sorry, Kev. I'm sorry. I got one more question for you. Just because I'm curious. Like, and I know this is indicative of what other people in the Atos gym are doing, the training regimen. Tell us a quick rundown of what your week is like when you're really firing off, get ready for competition.
Yeah. So a normal week for me would be 6 a.m. comp class. You know, wake up at 5, get there for 6. We train for about 2 hours, and then I go home and I rest. I'll try to take a nap if I can for, like, you know, give myself like a 2 to 3 hour period where I can take a break, eat, sleep, and then I'm usually pretty tired after that, pretty wrecked after comp class. But then I'll go to Electrum, which is right down the road from Atos. I'll get on the floor. I'll help coach clients. Just, you know, do whatever I need to do to help out there. Then I'll get my own lift in until about 4, and then I teach class 4 and 5. I teach a beginner's class, like day 1 students. So that's only an hour, and then after that, I'll head to train again at night, typically, or head to arena and do, you know, striking or MMA. And that's typically what like a normal weekday is like. And I'll do that Monday through Friday of training 2 to 4, sometimes 6 hours of training and lifting. And then between that, I am working on my social media or Electrum social media, you know, trying to study marketing, AI, the back end of Facebook, business, all these things, trying to like gain other skills and other aspects. And then on the weekends, Saturday I just lift, sometimes I'll drill, and Sundays I take completely off, and I'm usually on the couch watching Netflix all day.
Now, real quick, just from a guy who just got his master's in marketing last year, I could maybe help you out a little bit with the Electrum social media. You guys need to be leaning way more into the Brandon Sanderson Cosmere stuff, because I only ever clicked on you guys because I'm a Mistborn fan, and you guys your whole logo is inspired by Mistborn. You need to be doing memes and stuff. Maybe get Brandon to start doing push-ups or something. Like you could just lean more into that, the fantasy, because then we could get a bunch of nerds that don't do jiu-jitsu at all into the gym, and then that's the pipeline to jiu-jitsu, and then we just get a bunch of jacked up nerds out there in the world. And I feel like that's the end goal that you guys should be pushing towards.
Hell yeah, yeah. Mistborn's awesome. I love it. Such a great story.
That was what made me think we got to be related. If it wasn't the last name, is that we're both like super big into the same fantasy book series, because it's whatever. Oh man. All right. Kev, if you're done, I do have one more question.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
All right. Now, Adam, you've had the pleasure, like Atos has been home to many big MMA stars in multiple different promotions. And you guys have recently been courting one of the biggest stars in the world in Isreal Adesanya. And you guys actually you posted a picture to your social media of you guys seeming to wrap up a role. One, how did that practice session go? And what do you think about his jiu-jitsu game?
His jiu-jitsu is great. Like, a lot of people were trying to, I feel like anytime an MMA fighter or someone famous gets promoted, like, they get their purple belt, and every other blue and purple belt in the world's like, well, I could beat him for sure. Yeah,
I'm a blue belt. I wasn't saying that. Just put that out there. I wasn't saying that.
His jiu-jitsu is very sound. We're training. He's got great base, of course, hard to take down. He kept pulling guard in our roles. I was like, oh, this is surprising. Okay. And he's very, very humble, just trying to get better. He's willing to learn from everyone. He's super nice, super funny dude. He's Naruto running at me to start the roll and just saying different jutsu from Naruto. So and we're both huge Naruto fans. So yeah, we're just nerding out. Overall, it was fun. He's a tough dude. I mean, of course, he's more of a striker, and I've dedicated most of my, half my life to grappling. So, I mean, you can put the 1 and 2 together, but, honestly, he's a solid purple belt. It's well deserved. And I'm actually trying to plan a trip to go to New Zealand to train at MMA camp with him later this year. So I'm very excited for that.
Have you been hitting him up at all for hey man, this striking stuff sucks, I need your help?
He gave me a couple tips while he was here. I expressed interest, and yeah, he's very, very helpful. He's an overall solid dude. I highly recommend getting to train with him if you ever have the chance. He's a really, really solid dude. There's some MMA fighters who show up and they're not so nice, but he's the man.
Yeah, it's true. Some of them are kind of dicks. Some of them just want to get in there and get at it. He seems pretty humble. I mean, and to talk about when people talk about things like that, why does Austin Kusher get his brown belt, or why did is he got a purple belt? Sure, whatever. Of course it is. Like, bro, shut up. That's Izzy freaking. That's middleweight UFC champion freaking Izzy Izarda. Like, you're in trouble. You're not like that guy. Anytime you go against even a local pro that's a blue belt or a purple belt, you're going to be in for a fight. Their jiu-jitsu might not be as fluid and beautiful as you'd like to think it is to someone that's just training jiu-jitsu, but they're going to be a tough stud because they're MMA fighters. It's what they do. They're in another psychological level of toughness.
100%. I feel like these people on their couch eating potato chips watching this story right now, they're like, no, he's not purple. I'd kill that dude. Freaking,
let's put him in a gi. That's how it works. He'd probably still kill you in a gi.
He was training the gi a lot too. He likes the gi too. You have to think he's a world-class athlete. He's dedicated to martial arts, and he could put that same amount of work ethic that he put into kickboxing and MMA. He does that in jiu-jitsu as well. He's here to get better and to win UFC titles, and jiu-jitsu is part of that. He's there taking it very seriously. He's not just showing up once a week and Galvao throws a freaking purple belt at him for no reason, just for the picture. It's so silly.
I thought it was really weird when Paulo Costa, ahead of their fight, used the whole "I'm a black belt" and then he threw a white belt at him during a face-off as a way to get at him.
Never took a shot on him.
Afterwards, Izzy won the internet with that post of him in the white belt, and he's like, "Okay, today we're going hip escape."
He's a troll, man. He's so good at that. He's so funny.
I want to just this has been a hot button issue for a while. So, and you're more qualified to speak on the issue than many others that are offering opinions. So here and now, Isreal Adesanya, a worthy purple belt, yay or nay?
100%, no doubt.
Okay, all right.
He surprised me.
everybody that continues to belabor the point, unless you outrank this guy on IBJJF or Flow Grappling rankings, which he's the #1 heavyweight brown belt in the world, so that's a very small list of people, you guys shut up, okay?
Well, even more than that. Anyone who would question, like, if you're questioning Izzy's purple belt, you're questioning Andre Galvao for giving it to him, and that's on you. Like, that's just like when people tell me that Ashton Kutcher is a brown belt, I say, well, who gave him his brown belt? Oh, freaking what's his name? The guy with the hand, freaking Machado, right? Machado, like John-Jack Machado gave him his brown belt. Okay, well, am I going to tell John-Jack Machado that freaking Keenan?
I was actually Hegan, I think. I'm pretty sure it was Hegan.
Hegan, whichever one.
Which one of them?
Am I going to tell him that Ashton Kutcher's not a brown belt? Whatever. But he says he's a brown belt. He's a brown belt. I don't know what to say. Why that guy loves jiu-jitsu more than I can ever begin to imagine. Like, if he gives him a brown, but if Andre Galvao gives Izzy a fucking purple belt, that guy's a purple belt from Andre Galvao. So shut up.
100%.
100%. All right. Well, Adam, this has been a very enlightening podcast, and we really appreciate your time. And you've gotten to speak at length about one of your big sponsors and one of the organizations you work with. But if there's anything else you would like to plug that you have going on, things you want people to be made aware of, the floor is yours.
Well, I would say, check out Electrum Performance, electrumperformance.com. It's the best thing you can do for yourself, whether you're an athlete or not, so please check it out. We have multiple workout plans for anyone who's looking to improve their physique, their conditioning, their strength. So please check it out. If you have any questions, you can message me on Instagram, wherever, and I'll help you out.
Okay, and they're not paying me. They're not paying this Bradley a dime to say this, but ahead of this podcast, I actually did one of their super minimalist workout days because all the gyms near me are closed, and I can barely afford the dumbbells I have outside my door. And they'll kick your ass. It's no joke. They've got some really solid stuff up on their app. So, no money at all behind this, but go check it out. It's really good. All right. Well, Adam, this has been an awesome. Oh, wait, there's one thing I completely forgot to ask you. I know that we were getting swept up in your announcement that you're moving towards MMA in the future, but do you have any jiu-jitsu matches on the horizon planned, or is it day by day?
Yeah, so far, this is the longest break I've taken from competing. And I won't be, it's going to be 3 months off from competing. That's like the longest I've ever taken. I'm usually trying to compete like every weekend. But I plan on doing Dallas Open, IBJJF in March, beginning of March. Probably just going to do the no-gi. Maybe I'll throw the gi on too. We'll see. I haven't decided yet. Probably.
Everybody, he's decided. He's doing the gi.
You gotta just
shit.
Probably do both. Yeah. Like I said, I have FOMO. I don't want someone to win my gi division either. Other than that, I have it hasn't been like confirmed yet, but it will likely happen. Third Coast Grappling in the beginning of April. I'll have a super fight, likely against Pedro Mourinho, and I'm very excited for that.
That's a fun matchup. I'm going to see that.
I forget he's still a brown belt too. That's one of the.
Maybe that's the match I finally actually fly out to Texas for. Just only for you, Adam. I've
tried to get me to come out there too. Maybe I'll come out there. Maybe we can storm that place. We'll go check out a Third Coast.
The Kevin Bradley team in person.
It's a great show. It's a really great event. I love it. It's my favorite rule set. It's really good for my game too. You got like the IBJJF points, but with the heel hooks and all these different things. Like, it's just the perfect rule set for me. So I really enjoy it. And, the guys behind it are really solid dudes too. So I'm really excited to go back to Houston and put on a show in April.
Yeah, Ryan's cool. We have him on a lot.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I'm good. Yeah. If you got anything else, one from me again, Adam, you're awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, bro.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yeah. Would love to be back on again.
Sorry we had whatever technical problems we had, but you're awesome. It's good enough.
It's not an episode of the JJT podcast without at least 8 things going wrong. So this is pretty fortunate for us that only 2 things went wrong. But yeah.
If you would like me on again, I got plenty of other stories to tell, plenty of other things to talk about, and I will have it set up to where we have less technical difficulties.
Well, we appreciate the effort, sir, and we would absolutely love to have you back on, if only so we can get the 23andMe results. And I know I could hit you up for organs at some point in the future. But that being said, this has been a very fun and lighthearted episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast with one of the most dangerous men in the world, Mr. Adam Bradley, coming to an octagon near you. So be ready for that. As always, I have been your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Kevin Gallagher. Everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and keep on training, man, because who knows? This guy on the bottom here could come and kick your ass one day, so be ready for that. We love you all. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you.